Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev. In this video, we are going to create the FastBall game in Unity. So it's another one simple hyper casual game, and as we have already done it before, we are going to reuse some of our assets from the previous projects. Uh, I'll talk about it in the video which assets we are going to use, but all the assets for this playlist are available in a GitHub repository, which is in the download link in the description. And let's start creating the game. So for now, we have empty, just an empty folder. I've deleted the scenes folder, and there is just this sample scene showing up, which we have not saved. We are going to bring in our own scenes. So let's first bring in our assets. So the first thing we want to bring is if you have cloned my GitHub repository and if you want to start from scratch, so I'm going to bring in the editor folder, which is going to import all my color settings. So these are the colors, and after that we are going to import all the assets from our previous project, which are the prefabs, resources, screens, and scripts. TextMesh Pro, we are going to install it, which is going to be another folder. And editor, we are going to use the latest colors, so we'll use that. And let's put it inside our assets folder. And let's open up our main menu scene. And we'll hit don't save, and it will tell us to import TextMesh Pro. So we are automatically going to import it. And that will be our basic scene setup, and as you can see, a couple of things are not loaded. We'll check that later. So the first thing we need to do is change our build settings to Android, and let's remove our current scene, add open scene, and let's switch our platform to Android, cause a couple of packages we won't need, and we are just building a simple game, so the packages needed are going to be much more simpler. There are only like 4 to 5 packages, and one is the editor package, and the rest won't be needed. So we have changed our platform to Android. Our script is compiling, and after that, what we are going to do is in our player settings, we are going to disable the warnings for our TextMesh Pro. So let's go inside our project settings, and we don't need to do anything here, but inside our TextMesh Pro settings, let's disable the warning, disable the warning, and in our toolchain management, this install toolchain package automatically is turned off, but sometimes it's turned on, so it will automatically install that package we won't need. And let's set the fixed time step to 0.005. It's just as a simple game. It will smooth out all the movements for physics. And inside our editor for the naming, we are going to set it to underscore. If we have multiple objects, and this would be good. And if we need to do anything inside our preferences, I don't think there will be anything right now, but we also brought that up here. And finally, let's go inside our package manager, and currently we have like 5 and 10 packages, but we don't need a couple of packages. So if you use all the default packages that are installed when uh, it includes for uh, like all the packages to create the uh, um, Android build. So version control and visual scripting both we don't need. So if you include visual scripting, then I think the code like the final build will take up around 40 to 50 megabyte size. So if you're not using visual scripting, so currently we are not using, so we are not going to install that package. So the final build should be around 20 megabyte size, and we are only using the Visual Studio editor, and VS Code editor we don't need. So these are the 5 packages we are going to use: the 2D, TextMesh Pro, Timeline UI, and VS Code editor. And our current game, let's hit play. So there'll be some errors, but I think it is, yeah, now it showed up, it didn't refresh. So now we need to add our gameplay scene to the build. So this was our previous game that we created, and let's add our open scenes. And now if we hit play, we should be able to play our game. So let's hit play and let's see if it works correctly. So this was our previous game, Tricky Stick, that we created. Now, what we are going to do is first of all change the colors. So our canvas is going to be that main camera. Let's start with the main menu, background. Actually, it was white color, and everything else we are going to change it to a purple color. And for now, it is in the landscape mode, but it doesn't matter. We are also going to change that later. So how it looks, we'll need to check. And finally, that is going to be our main menu. So this is just the default main menu setup. There is a title screen and a button for the sound, and it's not too complicated game. So instead of maybe you may have settings which will take up to the settings or anything else, but we just have a sound which just turns off the audio, and the title, the play, and the quit. And normally most games don't have the quit button. I think it will be a small button somewhere around the top or the bottom, or maybe inside another panel. But we are going to have the quit button here. So that is our starting main menu. And let's change from free aspect to 16:9 portrait. So let's go inside our main menu and let's see if everything is working. So both the buttons are working. It is good to check as we don't have any test scripts here. Maybe sometimes uh, importing all of the packages, some links may break. So we'll have to check it manually. Now let's first start editing our gameplay scene. So first we'll change the background color. Then for the end panel also we are going to change the background color, and I think everything else for the end panel is going to remain the same. And inside our colors, for the color we are going to change it to blue, purple, blue and gray. So this should change our background color. And our center, we don't need it to look like this is right now. So inside our game manager, for the obstacle spawn time, we also need to set it to 0.64. So in around 1.5 seconds we should be able to see 3 objects. And what else do we need to do? We'll need to create our score first. And before to create that score, let's update our explosion. It's just a single burst. I think we'll need to, yeah, we'll change how it bursts. So it is 0.01 seconds. Let's change it to 0.05 seconds and restart. I mean, let's just change it to 0.1 seconds, and the initial speed, let's make it higher, around 32. And the burst, let's make it 5. So still it's fast. Not 5 is better. So these are our particles. I don't know how it's going to look, but let's hit the play button and we'll see how it looks right now. So what is going to do is change. So Our particles are also not looking good. And yeah, we'll need to add our particle as our bus. So let's first change our particle size, which is going to be 0.8 to 1.6. The maximum size will need to set it to 1, and minimum size let's make it 0.5. The speed let's make it 50, and emission let's just have it point not 4, and 5, and number of particles now it looks better. Point not 4 is also point not 2. Yeah, so now it looks better, and there was some issue that uh, we'll also fix that up later. And now it looks much better. Okay, so the obstacle spawning rate is higher. We should have set it lower. And explosions are not looking good. The size is still higher, so duration will decrease the size to 0.4 to 0.8, and we'll set the emission burst to only like 4. Let's decrease the count size to 8 to 16. So now it looks much better. So let's uh, change our obstacle first, cause it's the easiest, and all it does is moves around in one of the directions. So our current obstacle, for now here we are going to have our obstacle as a block, and let's change the block. Instead of bottom we'll have it center, and let's set apply. And for our bar we are going to have this pivot at left, so whenever we are going to use we'll change it. And let's remove our circle collider 2D, and the tag is going to remain the same, and let's attach a box collider 2D, which is again going to be a trigger. So what size our block is going to be? 1.6 by 1.6, and similar it's going to be size of our box collider. And we'll need to change our obstacle script, cause uh, it's like again a single component, so whatever it does we can understand it clearly. And let me open up Visual Studio, and first we'll edit our obstacle script. So we have box collider 2D, the size and everything is correctly set up. Now we'll go inside our game manager, and first we'll see if our obstacle spawning is correct. Okay, so it is better. And now it is always going to spawn our obstacle, so there is no need for anything else. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and currently, yeah, so let me change it to previous one. So this was the previous script. First we'll delete the score, cause our score are going to be like only 10 objects, and they are going to spawn from start. We don't need both of them, and instead of spawn prefab we'll directly spawn our obstacle prefab. So what would happen when our obstacle prefab is spawned? So our obstacle will be initialized, which we are going to code. So inside our obstacle we have our move speed, the offset, and the destroy time. and we have a couple of obstacle spawn pause, and after that we have a private int of our pause index or spawn index, whatever you want to call. And if the game has finished, then it is going to do something. We won't need the switching conditions, and the whole move to opposite direction is going to be not there. And let's remove move to opposite, and we'll also remove can move. So what we currently have right now is a similar obstacle script, but it is just going to move from our spawn position to the opposite direction. And the opposite direction condition will need to check from the max offset, and what we are going to do, if it is greater than max offset or our transform dot position dot x is less than negative of max offset, so it will cover both of our conditions, then it will destroy the game object. And instead of up, we are going to move left. And after that, these are the default positions. If the object spawns on the right, and it will move towards the left. Now, we have pause index, spawn pause, and left pause, spawn pause dot f. So if it is left, then we'll multiply the move speed by -1. So is left, then we'll multiply it by -1f, as it will be multiplied by 1f. So the move speed should be in the opposite direction. And that should do the trick for our obstacle spawning. And I don't think anything should be changed. We should see our obstacle spawning from the left and the right. What we are going to need to do is set up those obstacle spawning positions. So the positions we are going to set at x is going to be 15, and the first one, which is the top position, it is going to be at 9. The second one is going to be at 3, then -3 and -9. So these are going to be all the 4 positions where our obstacles should spawn. And I don't think we changed anything much, so still our game should be working. Okay, so why were those two circles? I don't know, but our obstacle are spawning from the left and the right. So that's what we needed it to do. Just ignore our those two circles, and let's go inside our scenes and inside our gameplay. And yeah, that was because we changed our, instead of our player is going to be a circle, so let's just change it to circle. Size is 1.6 by 1.6. We are also not going to need the box collider, so that was the issue. And currently what we'll be having is a player moving from left and right, and we'll need to change our center. Currently it is at 000, which is going to hold our score, but we'll need to start editing our score. So our score is currently looking like this, but actually it's going to be horizontal bar, which pivot is going to be at the left, which is around here. And let's see how our width changes. So as you can see, our pivot is here, so this is our center, whose width is going to be 5 and height it's going to be 0.8. Local scale attempt, yeah. And similarly our size is going to be 6 by 0.8, and position is going to be 2.7 cause we need to detect collision on the left. That's why we are having an empty slot for that. And what we are going to do is we don't have any of our scores spawning. We will set up the scores at the position which are the left and the right, and there are five on each column. So let's set it up. Let's set that up, and first we'll do is we'll create an empty and we'll position it at -12. So that's the position where we want it to be. Now we'll attach our score, which is going to be at 4. And if we see inside our game, that's where we should be able to see it. And instead of 15, let's set it to 25. Yeah, so that's where our score is. And should we make it white? Nah, black is fine, but still black is still too dark. Yeah, we'll need to set it to black, and let's set it to 15. So that's where our score is going to be. And let's just create all of our scores first. So this one we are going to rename it to score 1, and the second one we'll rename it to score 2. Its position is going to be -4, and what we'll do, it's will override its scale to -1. So if you see the override, we should be able to see its scale is changed. Now we have 5 scores, so they are going to be positioned at -6, 0, and the last two are at 6 and 12. So that's how our game is currently looking. And if we play the game right now, I don't know how it will work, but what it will do is it will detect the score, and yeah, it will just detect the score, and let's play the game. So let's go inside main menu and let's hit play, and we didn't delete everything. What the hell just happened? Yeah, there was some movement inside the score, so that's why they moved everything. Now there was some object reference with the score, which is as you can see, we are let me show you. So this object reference is at our script score 27. So it's just a random error. I don't know why. I mean, I know why it happened, but I also know the solution how to fix it. But this happened only in this project, and I don't know why it didn't happen in the previous project. So let's see what the issue is. So as you can see, the problem is at object reference for a script score 27. And the issue was as we have already instantiated the score in the scene, it is directly setting up and calling all the functions. So this start game manager.instance, it is set up inside our mono behaviors awake function. So it is set to instance is equals to this. And this is the awake, and after awake on enable is called, and after on enable start is called. But the issue is it is called only for this script and only for this game object. So inside our score, it is true that the awake will be called first, but only the scripts awake start and on enable are called at different time frames. So both are instantiated together, but inside that, maybe this awake is called first, and if you go inside some indexing, then this start will be called first and this awake will be called second. But the main point is before the start, this awake will be called, which is here. And this awake is like this function is not called when our score reaches our on enable. So that's why it's showing the object reference error. So this one functions are already called, but that's only for this core. But the game manager has not instantiated or not like enabled this function. So we are going to fix this issue, and how we are going to fix it is we'll change inside our, I think it should be inside project settings, preferences. Yeah, project settings, and inside our script execution order, first we are going to set up the main menu manager. Let's remove it. First, our game manager. Let's set up the audio first, then the main menu, and then the game, and finally we'll call our obstacle, player, and the score. And let's hit apply. So I know like my game manager script should be called first, and after that my obstacle and everything should be called. So what it will do is it will force game manager to call its awake, start, and on enable together when all the objects are already present in the scene. So that script is going to execute all of its three functions, and only after that our obstacle is going to call. So depending on I don't know how coding works. If it is works sequentially, it should call our audio managers all three first, or I don't know if it works parallelly or not, but that should fix the issue. And let's hit play. And currently we should not have any errors. And the only issue is like our score is moving, it went above. So what we need to do is we don't need our score to move. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and let's remove everything from our fixed update. I mean, we don't even need the fixed update. So score is going to have a couple of things. It is going to have two functions to change its color. Cause, 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 yeah. Cause there are two conditions for the, I mean, two states for the score, which is its block, I mean our bar. So if it is like painted white or its color is white, then only it's going to detect the score, or else it won't detect. And we are also not going to need the rotate speed and also the move speed, and also not the max offset. So we are only going to need the destroy time, and no errors, so everything should be fine. And we are also not going to need the obstacle spawn. So that should set up our score correctly. But let's set up its functions. So let me go inside my code and let's see. So our obstacle should be perfectly set up. There are no issues left. But what is going to happen with the score? So our every score is going to be unique. So let's create a serialized field for the private int underscore ID. And after that, what we are going to do is we'll create a public int cause we need to get our score. So it is just going to be a getter, and it will return our score. And we are going to have a couple more functions. One is going to reset our scores condition, and the second one is going to set up our score. So it will change the scores color to the white color. So um I think, yeah, I will create that afterwards. So let's first go inside Unity and let's see what things are working and what is not. I think we should be able to, yeah. So as you can see, that's how our scores moving right now. And currently, it did not detect, cause score is not set to trigger. It is not set tagged as score. Or why did it not detect? Our score should have updated. Yeah, it is set up. Uh, hmm. What could be the issue? So our score did not get detected, and I don't know why did that happen. Okay, the S trigger is set to true, and it is already colliding. There's no problem with that. And let's go inside our player, and if we have a tag of score. It should have updated. Let's put our event system as the last. Game manager, obstacle, main camera, time to move, score animator. We'll check afterwards. So, what is going to happen with the score? Nothing else here. I think we didn't add our collider to our player, which needs to be a circle collider. Yeah, see, it should we should have added, but we didn't add it. So there's going to be a circle collider 2D to detect collisions. It had a rigid body 2D, but to detect collisions, we'll need a collider. It doesn't collide automatically, and any one of both of the collisions needs to have a rigid body, and that was the issue. And let's go inside main menu. It won't be played from the gameplay scene cause we need a audio manager reference, and for testing purpose. So as you can see, we are able to change the score. So now what we need to do is let's go inside uh, our player script, and we are going to change the movement for our player. So collision dot game object dot get component score doesn't matter. So let's remove all of these properties first cause our score is going to be completely different. And let's also remove all the errors that it's showing. And finally, what we are going to have, everything without the error, is no movement. Now we need to add movement to our player. So we set up our obstacle. Now let's start with all of our scripts. So our audio manager is set up, constants is set up, our game manager we are going to need to change. So what our game manager needs to be changed? So color is changing, so there is no issue. We added the color script here, so whenever it is called, the color changes. Now what it needs to do is create a couple more variables, events, and functions for setting up the starting color of our score. So currently all are like black, which is transparent black, but the one which is going to update the score should be colored white. So uh, we should select from one of the 10 any random score, and we are going to update its color to white. and we are going to do it through events, so there is not much reference. I mean, if we spawn multiple obstacles or they're different, it will work automatically. Both systems are like not interdependent on each other, so even if we remove all the obstacles, it will still work. So let's create a region. And we'll call it select random score, and we'll end the region. So how we are going to select random score is let's create a public unity action, and we'll call it score reset. And next one is going to be a public unity action, which is going to pass a parameter of integer score set. So first one is going to reset the score, and the second one is going to set the score. And next one is going to be serialized field for the private integer for the max score ID. And finally, we are going to have a private integer for the current score ID and a public integer for our current score ID. And should we make it underscore? Yeah, let's just have it under. Yeah, underscore under. Yeah, let's have it as underscore. So inside our getter, what we are going to do is we'll return our current score ID, and inside our setter, we will set our current score ID to whatever value is passed. Then we'll invoke our score reset. So it will reset all of our scores, and we'll set our score, will invoke and will pass the value. So it will automatically set up the score, and we'll need to create a private void for setting up score. And what we are going to do, it's let's create a temporary variable which is our current score ID, and while our temp is equals to current score ID, we'll set the temp to be unity engine dot random dot range from 0 till max score ID. And finally, we'll set our current score ID to be our temp. So till it matches our current score ID, it will set one of the random, and where it is going to be called. Uh, why is this current? Uh, it will get an infinite loop cause set and set and set and set and set. So when is going to set up our score inside our UI when our score updates? Let's call our setup score function here, and when the game starts, we also need to set up our current score, so it should be inside the game start and then. So it should be inside our start yield return move camera before not before, when the game starts. Set the color for score, and what we'll do is we'll set our current color ID to 0, and so currently every ID is 0, so it will just set up the score for every ID. And as so it is another one feature. So we can test it. How we are going to test it? Let's go inside. So every ID is 0, no issues. Let's go inside our gameplay, and our max score ID is going to be 10 0. Let's just set it at 1. So what should happen is if we set up the correct variables in our score, yeah, there is not much. So who's going to subscribe this event is our score, and what our score is going to do is let's subscribe to those events. So game manager dot instance dot score reset plus is equals to score reset, and score set plus is equals to score set. And we'll need to create both of those events, which are going to be private void score reset, and inside our score reset, let's create a serialized field private sprite renderer, and we'll just call it underscore sr, and we are going to have a serialized field for the private color. Am I inside Visual Studio? Yeah, active color and our inactive color. So by default we are set to inactive color. When it resets, we are going to set its color to inactive color, and private void score set, and here we'll pass, and let's just call it id, and this id we'll call it score id. And what we are going to do, if score id is not equal to id, then we'll just directly return. So, and if it is not, then we'll set its color to our active color. So it should set up the color for us. And to check this, what we'll need to do is set each of its indexes unique so they don't collide with each other. And as it is already subscribed, just we'll need to set the variables correctly. So let's go inside Unity, and for the score, for the active color, just the alpha is going to change to 15, and for the inactive color it is going to be a white, and sprite render, it's going to be its own sprite renderer, and we'll need to set each of the IDs. So 0 is going to be at 0, this one is 1, and similarly all of them are going to have different IDs. Does not matter whatever it is, ordering is not important, but every ID needs to be unique. So this one is 3, this one is 4, this one is 5, and finally this one is 6, 7, 8, and 9. So when I created the game, I did the score last because it was a short thing to do. But I'm creating this game again and I already know, so it won't take up much time. So let's see how our game behaves. Let's hit play and let's go inside gameplay. Max score ID is going to be 10. And let's hit play. And what should currently happen is uh why did it change gameplay and our player? So yeah, we removed our movement for the player, now we can't check. So what should have happened is it should have set up one of the colors to that, but it did not happen. Why it did not happen? So this one is ID of 0. and our score. Did subscribe to that event and select random score. Score reset dot invoke and score set dot invoke of value. Both are perfectly fine. And when our game starts, we are setting our current color ID to 0. No issues too here. Hmm, hmm, hmm. Hmm, 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 hmm. If score ID not equal to ID, then will return, else it is going to set to active. Score set and score reset. Hmm, 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 hmm. So I think we didn't unsubscribe it. That's why it may cause the issue. So maybe it will work, maybe it won't. I don't know. Hmm, 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 hmm. So let's put debug.log and we'll check where the issue is. So first thing what we are going to do is inside our game manager, we need to check if this is set up correctly. So when we are setting, we'll put debug.log and here we'll pass set and not set. Here we'll pass the value and what it should show is 0. So we should be able to know that our current color ID is set up. And if we go inside our console, the issue is our game is not getting started. So why is it not getting started? I start game. That's the issue. Let's hit play. Hmm. I'm logging everything. Yeah. So it is not getting called. And yeah, we set the color for the score, current score ID. So that was issued the Visual Studio. So naming, I named it to current color ID, but actually it was current score ID. And that should fix it up. And let's go inside Unity. And what should happen is let me remove my debug.log as I already know the code should work. So what should happen is we should have, yeah, if it is not equal to, then it will return else. Again, the logic was incorrect. If it is not equal to, then return else it is color is going to be set to active color. Now, why did that happen? Scenes, gameplay. 1 0, so every ID is different. uh Naming convention error. Okay, we are serializing it and we are getting it. and it is just returns our ID. What happens if our score ID is not equal to our ID? Then we'll return. But if it is equal, then we'll set the color to be the active. So let's hit play and let's see what's the issue is. Yeah, I think we switched both of them. So that's why it was causing the issue. So our active color needs to be the white one and our inactive color needs to be the dark one. So happens, it's not a big issue. So now everything should work fine and the score is set up. Now we'll need to do movement for our player and some animations when our player collides with it. So to check the animations, we'll first need to have the movement for the player. And obstacle, audio manager done, constant done, game manager. I think game manager should also be done because the only thing we were changing was setting up the score. In menu manager should also be done, obstacle is also be done. So finally last thing would be our player and our score. And let's set up the player first because it just changes how the movement works. And it's not much difficult, but it will be a little bit uh, like for you it may be difficult to understand, but let's first create a serialized field and how our player moves, it moves from one position to the another. So first we'll create a private list of vector 3 and we'll call it move positions. And after that it is going to move at some speed, so serialized field private float of move speed. Then we are going to have private vector 3 for the move start pose, end pose, and our move direction. So direction will calculate like end minus start, and we are going to have a private float for the move distance. So if we get the move direction, then if we multiply it by move distance and add it to the start pose, then we'll get our end position and our move magnitude. So I mean it will be the move speed magnitude, but we are just going to call move magnitude. Private float current move distance, so we are always going to start from 0 or maximum, and then we are going to have a private integer for our move start index, then our move end index, and finally our total move pause. So we'll just cache it once so it doesn't call like move positions dot count again and again. uh, so how our move position is going to work is we'll first increase the current move distance, and our current move distance is going to be our move speed multiplied by our move magnitude, which will be like plus or minus 1, and finally time dot fixed at the time. And depending on that current move distance, we'll set our transform dot position to be the move start position plus our current move distance multiplied by the move direction. And our move direction is just going to have a magnitude of 1, which is a vector. So what it will do is it will just depending on the value set up our current move direction. And again, we'll need to set it up when our game starts. So uh, let's see what we are going to do. First, we'll need to cache our total move position, which is going to be move positions dot count. And after that, our move start index is going to be 0, and our move magnitude, it is always going to be the positive direction. And similarly, we'll set the move end index to be move start index plus 1, and finally we'll percentage by the total move cost. And after that, we can set up our move start pose to be our move positions of our move start index, and finally our move end pose is going to be our move positions of our move end index. And after we have move on the start, we can get our move direction, which is going to be move end from our move start, and we'll normalize it. And after getting our move uh, direction, we can get our move distance to be v3 dot magnitude of our end and our start. So it will automatically calculate that position, and not magnitude, v3 dot distance. And finally, after that, we can get our current move distance. It is going to start from the center, which is going to be move distance divided by 2f, and depending on that, we'll set our transform dot position to be that. So that should set up our position. And inside our update, what we'll do is we'll just set the move magnitude, change the like what do you call direction of our move magnitude, so positive and negative. And inside our fixed update, before we do all of this, we'll need to check if our current move distance is uh, greater than our move distance, then we'll need to reset its value. So what value we are going to reset? So our current move distance is going to start from 0, and our move start index is going to go from move start index plus 1 and percentage of our total number of positions. And similarly, our move end index is going to be similar, and as we are going to forward, it's going to have a similar value, but as we already update our move start, so it will look similar. And we'll set our move start, move end, move distance. So let's just copy it 4 lines. So it will set it up, and everything's set up correctly. That was the first condition. And next condition is going to be if it is less than 0. So similarly, we are not going to set the current move distance here, but this one is going to be -1. And suppose it value go below 0, then we'll add total move position. So modulo works like if you add whatever you are adding by modulo. So suppose you have 1, and if you add 10 to it and percentage it by 10, so 1% at 10 is 1 and 11% at 10 is 1. So similarly, we are adding it here because sometimes this may like it may be different. And end index is going to be similar, but here our current move distance is going to be our move distance. And that should set it up. And inside our update score, we are going to have one more condition, which is going to be collision dot game object dot get component, and we are going to get the score component and its ID. It should be equal to game manager dot instance dot current score ID, and only it will work. And after we update the score, what we are going to do is collision dot game object dot get component score, and we'll call the play score animation function, which we are going to create it. So instead of any particle effects, it's I mean we can create it as a particle effect, but it's just one game object. It doesn't matter if we add it again. And let's add it inside our score function, and that should finish up our score. So let me compare. So sprite renderer, active color, and active color, reset and set, and finally we are going to have play score animation. So it is going to have again a couple of parameters. So the first one is our game object. It doesn't need to play all of the time, and we'll just call it effect because it's an effect. Then as we are not using a particle system, we'll need to animate it ourselves. So it is going to be effect animator controller, and what it's going to play is our animation clip, and we'll call it effect clip. I mean it's just a small function, so it doesn't matter what we call it. So public void play score animation, and that should fix up our error inside our player. And also inside our console. And what it is going to do is it will start a coroutine. And what should you name this coroutine? Just let's rename it to core animation instead of play. And first it will do is stop coroutine or score animation. So we'll stop any of the previous coroutines, but it does not stop itself. So only this instance of this coroutine will work, and we need to first activate our effect. Then on our animator controller, we are going to play our effect clip eclipse dot name and -1 layer, and always start from 0. And after that we are going to return for the animation to finish. So as the whatever its animation time is, so we'll wait for eclipse dot length, and finally we'll disable our effect game object. Is going to be simple, it is, and that should place our animations. So our score is correct, and our obstacle is also finished, no issues with that. And inside our player We are going to check ID. It is going to be current score ID. Then only we'll update the score and play the animations, as it's not going to do anything. We just need to set up the values and fix up all the errors that it may cause. So let's go inside Unity, and first let's see nothing in the obstacle. Or we'll need to create all three of them. So let's create a 2D object and square, and instead of transform we are just going to use our default block. Its position is going to be at 0, 2.5, and let's make it sliced 5 by 0.8, and ordering layer is going to be highest, and we'll attach an animator component to it, and we'll create an animator controller for it, and let's just call it box, or it's just box. I mean, it doesn't matter, we already use score, so that's why we have box. And let's add our box to it. And we'll need to create its animations, so we'll record and then create. Let's open our animator. Let's open our animator, and we'll need to create the animation, so we'll also need our animation window, and we'll pan it down below. And let's first create our animation, so box and idle, and there is no active and active, so we'll just rename it to idle. It's always going to play this animation. And let's go inside our screen, and what our idle animation is going to do, and let's turn on the record. So for the start, let's just put a random value, and after that we'll put a real value. Change its color to something, so it resets its whatever it is, and after that we'll change it to original value, which is the white. And what it does, it just keyframes the position as I mean, we can add the keyframe, but it will automatically detect whichever the property we have changed. We don't need to like detect it. So it's just going to be a simple 8 frame animation, or maybe 10, 12 frame animation, finished in too fast. And here we'll change to 10 by 2, and transparency we'll set to let's just set it to 5, and at the start we'll set its transparency to 75. So if we hit play, it is going to look like this, and that's the animation. And we'll need to set it up in our score, so all of them is the game object is the similar, the animator is also similar, and finally our animation name is also going to be same. And we'll need to disable the square object at start. Do remember to disable it. And after that, let's go inside our scenes and the gameplay. Our game manager, there is not more, but inside our player we'll need to set up its script. So move speed, we are going to set it at 16, and we'll need to set up its move positions. And currently our player is at 0. Let's move it at -12, and our first move position is going to be at 3.36 and -12. Similarly, -3.36 and 12, +3.36 and -6, -3.36 and 0. So this one is at 3.36, -6, -3.36 and 0. And the next one is at 3.36 and 6, -3.36 and again it is going to be at +3.3612, -3.366, +3.360, and finally at 3.36, -6, and we already have the 12th position stored at the start, which is going to be 3.36 and later. So it will loop in these 9 positions, and let's see what error we are going to get. It should also work correctly. So there are not any issues, but when it collides, we did not detect. So the move. So when it collides, we are only colliding with the score clip. Let's also add audio manager dot instance and as if mm, mm, mm. So if it collides with the score and this, as if uh, let's copy this line in game and audio manager dot instance dot play sound, and here do we have move clip, score clip, point clip. What different sounds do we have? Yeah, we have a sound. So we have a sound for the point clip, but so that sound was when it collides, we are not able to get the sound. So what did we do is we copied the previous condition, and you can add an else loop there also, but we copied the previous condition, and if it matches the score, then and both are not equal, then it will play the point clip. And let's go inside Unity, and I think there are no more issues, and we'll play for a couple of minutes, and then we'll check how it goes. So it is working perfectly fine. And okay, so the game is working perfectly fine. There were not any issues, and it took a little bit more time than expected. Uh, Already it took me like I just began today, and already I finished it like in 6 to 7 hours. But it takes time to get the motivation to do it. So let's close all the tabs, and as you know, you can get this project from my GitHub link. And if you have watched till now, then thank you guys for watching. Do like the video and comment anything you like, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to play my game, which I've uploaded on the Play Store, you can get it from the download link below. And thank you guys for watching, and see you guys in the next video.